All right, so now we're going to do a different approach for creating some extra clouds that are based off of the mountain itself. And if you kind of look at our reference here again, you can see that we've got some nice clouds that are forming kind of in the steeper areas of the actual mountain. So there's a bunch of ways to do this. The way I'm going to do this one is, let's go into the terrain. I'm going to use that nice mask by feature to scatter points along the steep areas of this to procedurally generate where we're going to put our clouds. Then we're going to create some geometry, put that on there, and then we're going to use the same really quick technique to multiply that noise or that volume with a volume VOP. And this is going to be really, really fast and efficient to set up. So now that we're in here, let's go ahead and do a mask by feature. Let's take a look. And I want to mask by slope and height. So essentially I'm going to find just the areas that are really steep. Something around there. And we can turn off this fade off here. All right, so we're just getting those steeper areas. And now I'm going to mask by height. Let's compute the range. And I'm just going to make sure to reduce this from the top of the volcano here. So I'm just going to reduce the amount on the top. And then also, I'm going to reduce how far down. So the clouds are going to start around this area. And we could fade them on a little bit more, so maybe they gradually start. All right, so now I'm just going to add another scatter node. Let's copy and paste that over there. Hook this up. Take a look. And there we go. So, all right, one thing I want to do is reduce the amount of points that we have. Maybe 3,000. That's pretty much it. All right, so what we should do at this point is probably cache out these points so we don't have to recalculate them every time we open our scene. So I'm going to just write out these points. Let's throw them in a new folder called scatter. Now I'm going to call this scatter. That's scatter for $F4. And I'm going to save the current frame because this is our fourth one. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm just going to save this current frame, copy this path. Actually, I'll copy this path. We're going to load that from disk and view that. Finally, let's put down a null. Let's call this outscatter clouds. All right, so I'm going to view our original cache again. Let's go to the object and see, I'm going to copy and paste our atmosphere here. Let's call this new one maybe clouds scatter. All right, so let's dive in here and let's throw down an object merge to bring in those scatter points. Let's go find those out of our terrain mountain. Outscatter clouds, let's bring those in. Okay, so now we're going to copy a sphere onto the points. Let's throw down a copy to points. So now we're going to copy the sphere onto the merge. And let's change the size of our sphere. Let's change this to polygons. And let's change the scale to about 10. Let's increase the frequency. So then afterwards, instead of putting a mountain before or after the sphere to each point, I want to do it over the entire kind of scene here. So in the mountain, we can dial in our noise here. But first, I just want to change or vary the P scale. So I'm going to throw down an attribute randomize, chuck that in before. Let's view that. And instead of color, let's just throw down P scale. There we go. Now let's just change the values here. Use a maximum value of somewhere 3.5 and a minimum value of, say, around 1. All right, so we've scattered all these spheres around the mountain. Let's put some overall noise. I'm going to change the element size to 20. Let me bring down the height a little bit. There we go. So this is going to be the base mesh for our volume here. Now we're going to use the same kind of technique we used before. Although for this, what we're going to do is throw down a cloud node. So this is going to automatically kind of do a lot of the work for us. You see it's already created this density channel. So if we view that, we've converted it into a volume, but we've got pretty low resolution. So if we just give ourselves some better resolution, say 400, and this is going to start to really depend on how much RAM you have in your computer. So you can see where we're getting at here. We've got some options to control the density of the cloud. You can bring it up in certain areas, drop it off. We're just going to leave this default. What's cool also about this node is we can flatten out the clouds as well, starting from the bottom up. But since we're scattering in all this different height, it's not really going to do us much use to flatten those out. It's going to take our entire kind of system. But for individual clouds, we can start to really kind of flatten out that bottom to get that look. Anyways, for here, we're just going to turn this off. And now we're going to use that same technique in the volume VOP here. So let's just copy and paste this. And alternatively, we could use a cloud noise. But this is quite a bit more expensive, and we're going to use this on our hero clouds. It's quite a bit more expensive to calculate. And we just want an overall noise, and this is going to work really, really well by using this volume VOP here. So, all right, let's just take a look. This is our previous settings of the volume. So let's bring the amplitude back to 1. And let's kind of maybe dial up our frequency. You kind of see what we're getting at here. You can see how quick this is to set up, and it's really, really efficient. So that's pretty great. So, all right, one thing I know is I definitely want to get quite a bit more resolution. So I'm going to put this up, the uniform sampling divisions, to 1500. Let's give that a minute to cook. There we go. So that didn't take too long. Just a few seconds, really. All right, so now let's just work on this noise a little bit and dial it in and get something that you like. I'm going to use, for this, I'm going to change to mouse up. So it's going to be easier to dial in our settings without trying to change it every time. I'm going to turn down the frequency to 0.025. And let's increase the roughness. This is going to give us a little bit more of those smaller details. And our attenuation, I'm going to bring this up. So we've got a bit more of a fade off here. Bring this up to 2. You can see how we're just kind of fading off a little bit now. All right, so there we have it. So you can see how fast and easy this is to set up. And we could go further with the detail, but essentially we're getting some overall volumes based on the curvature of the mountain. We're going to dial this in maybe a bit more subtle when we go to render. So in the next lesson, we're going to go ahead and start setting up our hero cloud.